The third Sunday of Lent takes us to the cleansing of the temple area. Lent is about the cleansing of the sanctuaries of our bodies and souls. During Lent, we spend a great deal of time examining our consciences through the lens of the Ten Commandments. I bet you, every time you go through the list of the commandments, it makes you feel awful because of your shortcomings, myself included, of course. And that many of us will probably admit that we have broken the Decalogue several times. And so in this short reflection, we will not go into the details of the Ten Commandments, as it is nerve-wracking. It's too much. So we're going to focus on the purpose, on the handing down of what we call the commands, which we are all familiar with. And so the commands came only after the declaration of God's love or God's righteous deeds to the people. It was only after revealing what He has done for us that God He spoke of words to the commands, that God He spoke His words of command. And so I believe this is key to our interpretation and approach in this reflection. And at this early, our response is gratitude and appreciation. And so I should know there is the virtue and the great deeds God has done. And then there was the commandments, and following the commandments, our response is gratitude and appreciation. I mean, how wonderful is that? And so let me take you to the first commandment, because as you know, that's the first and most important. And if you get the first commandment, if you get it, the rest are just details. And so from this standpoint, you can see how it was designed. I, the Lord your God, I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, or that place of slavery, that you shall not have other gods besides me. And as we prepare for the communal penance service, we should spend the next few days identifying our false and counterfeit gods who do nothing but manipulate us without us knowing it. And so idolatry then is the first and most serious of all sins. The commandments are not primarily rules we must blindly submit without question. That the law is meant as a guide for living well and to form our heart and mind in virtue. So that means the law of God is formative, not simply restriction, and it's not meant to constrain our behavior. That God did not intend to control us. And so you can see this is kind of like a different way of approaching the Ten Commandments. And let me take you to the Psalm 19, verse 10. And I'm going to quote this to you. The law of God is sweeter than honey from the comb. It is more precious than gold, even a heap of purest gold. The law of God is more to be desired than gold. Even the finest gold is sweeter than honey and syrup and the drippings of the honeycomb. The transfiguration experience, which was one of those rare moments in life that wrapped and enveloped us of the glimpse of the glory of God, prepared us to this day. You know, the entire message of God begins with the word obedience, which is actually the listening intently to the Lord and not submission. And so the law is meant to grow in true and genuine loving relationship with God and with each other. And so the law is not meant for the individual. It must be applied accordingly in the context of society and community. Its intent is to keep us alive with God and never a burden. You know, when God handed down the law, he spoke to Moses as a friend. And so also, this is a wonderful reflection in relation to what we have discussed or talk about. And the declaration of God's righteous deeds or God's love precedes his commands. And this is what we've learned. You know, Jesus' friendship or divine friendship is highly demanding. And yet those who admit and freely accept and keep his company or keep and then stay in his company are changed forever. And that Jesus' friendship is an unshakable and an impossible demand. But those who look at life through the eyes of Jesus, especially the disciples who were with him in the course of his public ministry, possess life to the full. In this formation process, in this short reflection, I am reminded of Jesus' angry words, the holy emotion, and made a whip and overturned the tables around. If you take Lent seriously, you will go through some sort of destruction of the intolerable habits and embrace them with virtue, all in the name of God's love. Amen.